honestly just want to get with my friends and talk about them, their stories, their lives, their challenges, and how they overcame them. I just want to get to know them on a deeper level, and of course, we're gonna laugh. I mean, that's what we do. But I want them to feel that someone listened. And that's it. This is the Barr+Friends podcast, where it's my space, your story, 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 your story. This is Christian Barr, and you are tuned into the Barr+Friends podcast. And on tonight, man, I don't even know how to do this intro, man. Oh man, this dude. I did life with this brother, man. Met him when I was in my latter 20s, and just a connection, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
We both kind of ghosted each other after Bible college. I mean, we still try to
We
have,
kept in contact.
yeah. But this brother will always have a place near and dear to my heart, no diddy. Um,
Ooh, that lime water almost got me.
but no, man, this dude, he's amazing. Um, One heck of a brother, believer, husband, father. I mean, I know that there's only one true lifesaver, which is Jesus, but this dude be saving lives on the daily. Well, not recently or not lately, because we'll get into that later. But
Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen, welcome my good friend, my no, not my friend. This is my brother, Zach Heckman. How are you, bro?
Good, my brother. Good. It's good to see you, man. It's good to see that smile again.
Oh man, for sure, man, for sure. Listen, we go way back, bro.
Many moons. Many moons.
Yeah, man. I think yes. I think I was in my third year
Yeah.
at Summit, and you were
Yeah.
in your
That was my
first year,
first
right?
year. Yeah, that was my first year.
Man, I mean, we would just walk and I mean, well, our thing was, we would just talk about our latest crush, but but no, man, it
Oh,
was
the old
good
ring by
days.
spring fever.
Yo, I think
They
that
got
we
talent
should
off for that.
for real, bro. I think that we should just start off there. Like,
Sure. Absolutely.
um, first and foremost, I like to ask people um their genesis, and pretty much their genesis is their beginning, like how it all happened for them, where were they born, pretty
Okay.
much the things that kind of got them to where they are today. And
Absolutely.
so I kind of want you to take us back and tell us how you got to Summit, how we met, and just give us the journey on where you are now. So yeah.
Whew. Well, I was born in Orlando. Um,
A
Born in the O Town, but I got
dessert.
raised in Panama City, up
Okay.
in the northern part of Florida, for most of my life, and raised up in a Pentecostal church. Um, First Assembly of God was the home base for the longest time, and um, I always grew up in the church. I spent my Wednesdays there, my Sundays there, Tuesday night for band practice there, and everything, and but for the longest time, I was doing that double life stuff and yeah, partying Saturday night just to go to church on Sunday morning. And I remember I was 20 and David Fernandez and Chanel Galbraith and their group came to First Assembly for my intern for their internship, and I was just I was a hellion. High school, I was a hellion. I was a sport. I was an athlete. Everything that comes with that. But yeah, I got out of high school. I really didn't know what I was going to do. Worked several jobs. I was a coffee guy for Dunkin'. Not sure how that correlates. We usually know for donuts, but I was a coffee slinger. And um, I remember when David Fernandez and Chanel and all of them came. I saw something that was different. I was like, these cats are just something's different. And they were telling me about the school that they were going to, that my sister and my brother-in-law were going to, and I always thought that it was just the holier than thou school. You went there, you became, and that's just how it was. I never was like that, but I remember I got really close with David Fernandez, and he was, and Chanel specifically, and they're both from New York City. And again, I'm from the deep South, but I showed them a good time. I showed them how to call a gator in one day at the state park that we have down here.
You're right.
And I remember the first time they ran into the ocean, that was hilarious. But throughout the course of hanging out with them, they were just telling me what would happen at the school. And there was one day I was like, they were at my house and they were swimming in my pool, my family's pool, and so you know what? Why not? What's the worst that could happen? They got me through the application process. My sister and brother-in-law helped, and I didn't think I was going to get accepted. And well, lo and behold, I get an acceptance letter, and I'm like, well, all right, off to Pennsylvania I go. And
Yeah.
I got there and was miraculously, it was completely different than what I expected. I expected everybody to be floating around in the air with their Bibles and stuff, doing this and angel lights everywhere, but everybody was just down to earth. Everybody
Yeah.
was just down to earth. And it was just everybody from all walks of life. And my first year,
Bruh.
let's just say, long story short, the Lord did a work because, ooh, the spirit of rebellion. Yes, it was.
Yo.
But I remember meeting this dude, this cat, when we went to Times Square Church
Okay.
by the name of Bar. And
Yes, sir.
walked up. I remember we were downstairs in the little choir room, and you walked up. You heard me talk. You went, "Where are you from?" I was like, "I'm from Florida." And he went, "I can tell."
That's it.
And it was an instant hook. And just anytime you would come to the school or I'd go there, we would just catch up. And I'm thankful for those 3 years because they ultimately they saved my relationship with Jesus.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, I didn't come out of school some prophetic pastor or someone who's led thousands of people to the Lord or who's spoken different countries or this, that, and the other. I just went back home. But I got to minister going back home.
Wow.
And it's one thing that I could say is the beauty of ministry in your hometown.
Right.
And one thing that that I had to go through, basically just be shown, was, are you comfortable with your name not in the limelight? Are you comfortable being a nobody in the physical and being a somebody in the spiritual? And that was a hard road. That was a hard thing to learn because I go ahead.
No, because we never really talked about this. And I've always wondered for so many years, like, I mean, well, I know that your passion is to really rescue and help people. Like that
Yeah,
has just that's been your heart since I've met you.
yeah.
But I've always wanted to know, like, did you ever feel a call to ministry, to preach,
I
or
did, and I
okay,
still I did, and I still do.
okay, okay,
Um, and it comes and goes. I'll be honest with you, it comes and goes. But
I hear you.
especially in the season that I'm in right now, I haven't really felt that. I've been in the spirit. I've been in a season of spiritual and physical healing.
I hear you. Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah.
And
We gonna get into that for sure a little bit
yeah,
later, but yeah.
but no, the longing's still there. The longing to just worship and to help lead others into worship. But one thing that I've learned since quote unquote being out of the game,
Right.
you can have just as anointed worship time by yourself in your house than as you can in a church.
Come on.
I mean, David David played his music instruments by himself. Like, and again, that's the beautiful thing of ministry in your hometown, meaning ministry in your home.
Right. Right.
And it's been a very the past few years have been a very insightful season. Um, because I haven't really been anywhere near ministry, and to see the importance of it all, every aspect of it,
Right.
whether it be you minister in your home or you minister at your work or you minister just out in public, or if you're on a stage under the lights with a microphone and your voice is going through speakers, you can touch just as many people, bring them to your house, having a good cup of coffee, or as we do down here in the South, fill your table full of food and give them some good barbecue, and then just talk with them. The ministry
Right.
of presence.
Right. That's good. That's what I want you to hit on
Yeah.
because so many people think, bro, that you have to be in the children's department or you have to play guitar or you have to be a pastor. I was just going to say that what you're doing is probably impacting more people than an actual church service on Sunday. Like you get to actually, really be in some actual heavy duty calls that you have
Hmm.
to make and you have to, you know what I'm saying? So it's like
Yeah.
you can be able to be the hands and feet of Jesus anywhere. You don't
Yeah.
have to
Exactly.
necessarily be a minister, right?
Yeah. You don't have to have the title pastor or bishop or deacon or this, that, or the fifth to be a minister. Some of the most powerful ministers I've ever known have never touched the pulpit. I mean, that's just part of the game. That's just part of what we're called to do. You might not be called to that section, but you're still a minister in whatever position you've been placed in.
Wow.
And I've had my spiritual world rocked by some folks who never touched a microphone. And again, it just goes back to, excuse me, when even after school, I entered a season where I'll be straight up honest. I hated the Lord. I hated church. I hated the Lord. I wanted nothing to do with it. But there was just some people, you included, just the ministry of presence. Like, hey man, Jesus loves you, bro. You ain't too far gone. Whenever you ready to come home, come home. And when it was time, I came home. And
Right.
that's one thing that I've been hit, that's been really hitting me, is to reach out to those and pursue those who were once in the love with Jesus, but have since run and think they're too far gone to come back. That's one thing it's been hitting my heart lately a lot. And it's just like, listen, you don't understand, bro. Like, if I could come back, homie, anybody, right? Just like what I always told us at school, your legs can't outrun the grace of Jesus and the grace of the cross.
Wow.
And no matter how hard you try, you can't outrun it. He's always going to be there. And we just got to put down our stubbornness and just realize, all right, and it's okay to be scared.
Yeah.
It's absolutely okay to be scared. It's terrifying to put your all in all into someone. It's terrifying. But that's the beautiful thing. Like, he proves himself daily. So I think, like I said, like I was saying, the ministry of presence is huge. And I've had a lot of that recently, and a lot of lessons in that recently in this new season that I'm in. And it's kind of like reignited that fire for me to give it to others. And but that, yeah.
I'm here for it, bro. What do you say was the thing that led you back to come home to Christ?
My wife.
Yeah, I want you to elaborate on that.
So before we got married,
Yeah.
my wife would always push me to go, hey, let's go to church this Sunday. No, I'm good. For about a good year and a half. And then one day I went, and she was supposed to meet me there. And she ended up, as she usually does, she sleeps through her alarm. Bless her. I love her to death. I love my wife. I am a blessed man. But I love my wife with everything I have in me. But that woman can sleep through a tornado and a hurricane at the same time. But she was supposed to meet me there, and she didn't. And I remember sitting up in the balcony area, borderline having a panic attack because I was so scared. And I remember I was like, all right, I'm here. What do you want from me? And as surely as I sit on this podcast with you, bro, I promise, I felt arms wrap around me, and a voice in my head said, just you. That, man. Whew. So I still get emotional about it.
Wow. Man.
Just you. And through everything I had done before that time, and through even the seasons that have happened since then, because I haven't been perfect. The Bible says we all sin and fall short. I still go back to that day And it just, where the Lord was just like, I just want you. And again, that goes back to the ministry of presence.
Come on.
Just feeling his arms around me, and it's just, I I'm a I'm a firefighter of almost 10 years. I'm an EMT, surf rescue guy. I'm supposed to be one of those that we don't cry. But when I felt those arms wrap around me, and I heard that voice in my head say, just you. That's it. Just you. I bawled like a baby. I went through about a half a box of Kleenexes. That is a conservative number. And it just years of stone around my heart melted. And I texted my wife because we were dating at the time. I texted her and I was like, dot 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 dot. Fine, you win. And she knew what happened. She knew. She texted me back. She goes, all she said was this, told you. And it's just how I forgot how peaceful being in his arms is. And oh my goodness, it was the best feeling I have felt in so long. And it, other than the day I married my wife, it was one of the top two best things that ever happened to me. Of course, marrying my wife is number one.
Of course,
But
yeah.
um and I've often, in this new season, I've often found myself going back to that time, and that I can tell you exactly what seat I was in, exactly where I was at when it happened. And I I just I go back to that, and times when I'm struggling and times where things are hard, I find myself going back to that exact spot. And what a beautiful feeling it was. And it's been happening a lot more recently because things have not been easy. Things have not been easy lately. But um it goes back to the old adage, I don't know what to do with my hands, but I know who holds me in his.
Mm.
And just thinking about that time when he met me after all the years of running, after being in Bible school and this, that, and the fifth. And he's like, and he still chased me after all that. He's like, I just love you. I just want you. We don't deserve his grace, but thank you, Lord, for it. And like they used to say at Summit, thank God I'm not God. Who was it
For
that
real.
always said that? It was,
I forgot,
he
man.
was a guest speaker. It wasn't Elder Chooks.
No, I don't think so.
No, he was an old school OG pastor. I can't remember his name, but I
Oh,
remember that
man.
specifically because when he said that, I'm like,
You're right.
we can say that.
Uh, going back to our times at Summit, um, what was a Holy Spirit experience that you experienced at Summit?
One of the There was a couple, and they never really happened in the service. Don't get me wrong. I encountered the Holy Spirit in the church chapel services and the revival services,
Right.
this, that, and the fifth. But um, I often found my biggest Holy Spirit moments was when I was out walking in the woods.
Yeah.
You know me. I'm a country boy, and
Yes, sir.
the times even where I would go fishing in one of the two ponds.
Yep.
There was a time where I was walking through the woods, and it may or may not have been off campus because I don't know if I could still get a referral or not. But
Yeah.
I remember I had came up to a clearing that looked over the lake, and it was a small little clearing. I sat up on a rock. I just sat there,
Mm.
and I was in a season where I really didn't hear much of the Lord speak, and I just sat there. I was defeated, and I just heard this voice. He's like, "When are you going to let me love you?" And I'm like, "What do you think I've been trying to do?" And he's like, "No, when are you going to actually let me love you? You are worthy of my love, regardless of the limitations you put on yourself." And I just started crying again, and just to feel the anointing come down in that spot, sitting on that rock. And I'm pretty sure the people who were walking around the lake thought I was psycho. But another time was when I was fishing, and I had some situations pop off at home, and I really started kind of secluding myself.
Right.
And I went fishing that day. It was during the summer, and I was still at the school. I was the activities counselor, or like the sports guy,
Right.
but we had an off day, and I wanted to go fishing, and because it had been too long since I'd been able to eat some freshly caught bass, and I wanted to eat some.
Right.
I got in so much trouble. But
Yeah.
during the fishing, it is I, I I casted it out one time, and I was reeling it back, and a voice said to me, "As many times as that lure comes back to you is as many times as you can come back to me." And I never really understood that until the past few seasons that I've been in here in the past few years.
Right. Right.
But that was just the Holy Spirit ministering me for the future of what was to come,
Yes, sir. I was just going to say that.
and
Yep.
planting that seed. And it's not a there's a song out, it's called "Where I Find God,"
Hmm.
and it's a secular country song, but it's talking about where he finds God. And I've always had my encounters with him in the most weird places, kind of like fishing or walking through the woods, or the night that I got hurt.
Mm.
I had an encounter, and through the chaos of all that, I knew when he spoke to me, I knew I was going to be okay. But at school was usually when I would go fishing or walk through the woods.
Yeah. Um, I really can't pinpoint the experience or the moments because I just feel like anytime that we had our Sunday services or chapel services, just the presence of God was just there. But there were a
Yeah.
few times that I'm sure that you can agree with me on where it would be sometimes Matty D on the keys.
Oh,
Shout out to you, Matty D.
shout out Matty D. That boy.
Right, right.
Fellow Southerner from Texas.
Yes, sir.
Man, that boy's anointed.
And after he would play, it would just be like a Holy Spirit
Just,
hush.
yeah, just. I always loved when he led worship. Always loved it because he is an incredible musician, incredible vocalist.
For sure.
But that man loved leading worship.
For real.
And and the crazy thing was he lived how he worshiped. That is what separates them. I never heard that man speak an ill word.
Never.
Even on the weather. We could have been in a blizzard. And that man was prophesying peace and love over the weather and saying, "Thank you, Jesus." And I'm sitting here, a boy from Florida, like, it is -20 outside. You have lost your mind.
Oh. Yo.
I never saw him not smile.
Yo. His integrity was, now see, he should be in the dictionary right next to integrity because that dude.
Without a doubt.
What?
That man, I could just listen to him just talk.
Right.
Like I don't even care if he was talking about grilled cheese sandwiches. Just talk. Just let me hear you.
Right?
Let me hear you. and like he could even tell you, like, I could have hated grilled cheese sandwiches, but that man's integrity was so strong. He could look me dead square in the eye and be like, grilled cheese sandwiches is actually really good for you. You know what, Matty D? I trust you.
For real.
It's insane. I wonder how he's doing. I wonder where he's at.
Right? No, for sure. Man, yeah, I as you were telling your stories on how God met you, I was thinking about mine and they happen in the similar place. I just, when you go back home, because we're both Florida boys, but it's like when you go back home, there's just so many distractions, so much noise, right?
Absolutely.
But those 3 years that I was at Summit, when anybody would ask me, how was your time there? I mean, yes, I did try my best to really lean in and focus on the Lord. But of course, I was in like 15,000 relationships and, liking, the chick that pretty much straightened her hair right before chapel service, just stuff like that. Lord. You know what I mean?
The ring by spring fever hit hard.
Right.
Hard.
Right. But, there were definitely some, some in the woods moments that I had with the Lord. And I think that you might be a little bit familiar with this story, but there was a season where, and I don't know if I wrote this in my dorm room or in a chapel service, I'm not sure, but I just felt this anthem sung over me that it's a new morning, it's a new season. And I just pinned that song and you know what I'm saying, the rest is history. But I really, and I'm not saying that he could not speak to us now, because he has been and he's here in this conversation.
Absolutely.
But it was just something about being away from your friends, from your family, and it was just you and God in the middle of nowhere, bro.
Nowhere. Shout out to those 100 acres.
For real, for real. And so I will forever be thankful because I think we know church, we know the protocol of church, but I think
Hmm.
when you go to Summit, you wow. Whew, I just felt a chill there. You really are just being alone with him. You know, I mean, yes,
Yeah,
we're doing things for him, but we get to have the opportunity to have alone time with him.
yeah.
And I miss those days, bro.
I miss the simplicity of it all and the quietness and I, I, uh,
Take your
I
time.
don't miss the 6 a.m. wake ups, but
Nah, man, me either.
I miss the simplicity of being in his presence
Right,
and how easy
right.
it is and how easy it was. And
For sure. And
I agree with you though. I agree with you 100% on that.
oh man, no, definitely. And the one thing that, and maybe this is because I'm just getting older and more emotional, but it's like, and I'm actually gonna leave this part in the pod. I I owe you an apology, bro. It's like, and I would have conversations with my classmates, and the one that I had this conversation with, shout out to you, Jock. I would tell him, I would say, I would tell him, bro, I would be like, yo, it's sad that, you know, these 3 years are coming to an end. And it's going to be more sad that when we graduate, we won't be able to keep in contact, or we won't keep in contact with half of the people that we've done life with over
For
these
3
last
years.
3 years. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now, of course, I try to keep up, but people got lives and they get married and they're in ministry
Yep.
or they're doing their thing, and I remember that I tried my best. We both tried our best to, keep tabs on each other. But, just hearing your heart and just hearing your stories on how, you were just wilding out. You were just doing your own thing. I really
Yeah.
wish that I could have, you know, um, kept tabs on you more. I wish I could have, you know, been more, I guess, been more active in your life. And I'm sorry, bro. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I guess and maybe it's because I'm married and I have a stepson, and you're married and you have kids. You just realize how important it is to surround yourself with people
Yeah.
that, not just with anybody, but people that you really had a genuine connection with. And that's the reason why I'm doing this podcast, especially with you, because it's like you're just not just a guest. Like, you're my brother. We've done life together. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
we can be able to talk and have stories and laugh and cry and get emotional because we actually did that.
Yeah.
So
We we broke bread together for years.
right,
Yeah.
right.
But listen, you don't owe me a single apology. You don't,
Yeah,
because that whole season is a testimony of God's faithfulness.
yeah, yeah,
And you had your own stuff and your own struggles going on.
yeah.
Listen, brother, I made it. I made it through. And and I don't I honestly I wouldn't change any of that for anything, because I genuinely now have such an appreciation of the grace of God. And
Yeah.
because growing like we know growing up Bible going to Bible school and growing up in the Pentecostal church and it's all expected. It was just hammered in me, but I got to actually live it.
Right.
And that's the crazy thing. After years of us being brothers, like, my man, you ain't got to apologize to me about nothing. It was already designed.
Yeah.
And guess what? Now we're sitting here doing your podcast. You ain't got to apologize to me about nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
stubborn. I had to learn.
Yeah.
I had to
No,
learn the
true.
wrong way.
True. True. No, man. Yeah. Yeah. No, I hear that. I hear you on that. It's just that, it's crazy how time
Flies.
just,
Yep.
you know,
I remember celebrating my 21st birthday in the Caleb dorm,
wow,
and now here I am, 33 years old, and it's just the blink of an eye. Just
bro. I know. Crazy, crazy. So I I want to touch on two more things and then I'm gonna let you go. I want to tackle, and you kind of talked a little bit about this, but um, shout out to, I can call her Mrs. Heckman, right?
yeah,
She
you
does
can.
have your last name, right? Just
She
want, okay,
does.
just,
She
just want
does.
to make sure. Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
she does.
I kind of want to talk about, how you guys found each other and um, your story behind that, and yeah, I definitely want you to
We
share.
we found each other. I wasn't looking. She wasn't looking, and we actually found each other at a friend's wedding, and then we all a few weeks later, I didn't pay no attention to. A few weeks later, I went out with some friends to the bowling alley to go bowling, and she was there, and there's a big group of people, and her and I kicked it all night to about 4 a.m. And
Dang.
yeah, um, we haven't stopped talking a day since then, and that was almost three, if not more than 3 years ago. And we got married on March 16th of this year. Um, we have we have been through our ups and downs as a couple, but God has been faithful, and I know He's going to continue to be faithful, and regardless of whatever season He brings her and I's way. She she is my firecracker. She is a pistol, but I love her. She's half Mexican and half Apache. So I done got me a good one. Yes. Yes, sir. Um, but she when it's time to turn the gangster on, she's not scared to do it. But when it's time to turn the loving on and her like show her heart of love for people, she's not scared of that either. She's my best friend, and I wouldn't want to spend a day on this earth without her. I get emotional because that was who I've been praying for 33 years, and she finally came. And but she's actually at work right now. She works at our trauma center here in the ICU as a nurse, and just thinking about her makes me smile. So when you brought her up, I couldn't help but to start smiling. But
Nah, man. Now, just for memory's sake and just to be funny, because you know a little bit about my girl history as well, man. It's so good. And this is why I like staying in touch with people, especially with you, because it's like we went through a lot, and I'm not, well, some sexually, yes, but
Yeah.
just saying, we went
Yeah.
through, our share of women, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm just, I'm gonna go ahead and say this, and I'll say it for you. But isn't it crazy on how years ago we thought that this chick would be our wives, and
Yeah, this would be hers. That's hers. That is
right,
hers. That hers. That hers.
right.
That her.
And I can only imagine the Lord is like laughing, like, man, please, y'all,
Like, just chill, bro.
right,
Sit down.
right, right. And I think for me, it was just like, nah, man, like, hurry this up. Like, I
I
gotta
gotta have
find
it
Mrs.
now.
Barr. Yeah, right, exactly. And I'm not saying that our exes are horrible. It's just they weren't meant to be with us, for a lifetime.
Yeah.
And in some cases, I'm like, maybe it was a good thing that we parted our ways,
We
you know what I'm
separate
saying? And
ways.
exactly. So I'm proud of us for not giving up on love,
Yeah.
and having some great and godly women um supporting us, and have our
Yeah.
back. So yeah.
Yeah. Pushing us when we can't push ourselves.
Whew. Mm, mm. What was the thing? It could be the thing, the time, the place, how she said it, what she was wearing. What was it for you that told yourself, "Oh no, I'm going to marry her"?
The way she never gave up after me. Because she chased me. Yeah, she chased me. And because I didn't want anything to do with love. It's funny that you say that we didn't give up on love, but I did. I absolutely did. And I
Wow.
wanted nothing to do with it. I didn't trust it. I remember one day she had come over to my house, and it was one of my very few off days from work. But we were sitting on my couch, and she
Mhm.
looks at me and she goes, "You know what?" I look at her. I was like, "What's that?" She goes, "I'm gonna marry you." And I just looked at her. I was like, "No, you're not." She's like, "No, I'm serious. I'm going to marry you, and you're going to be my husband." She goes, "Just wait," and just went right back down to looking at her phone. And then we started watching. I think it was Lord of the Rings, which made me start to question everything because that's my favorite. That's my favorite movie, and I'm just because there were times where she would tell me before then that she's like, "I love you." I'm like, "No, I would tell her verbatim. No, you don't. What makes you say that? No, you don't. You don't love me. You can't love a guy like me."
Wow.
And
Wow.
she never gave up. Like even when I gave up on myself, there was one night where it was a night where I found out my stepmother passed away,
Mm.
and I was at work when I found out, and I was actually heading back to the station from a call that we had, really bad call, and
Mhm.
somebody had messaged me asking me if it was true that my mom had died, and I was like, "Excuse me?" And I called my dad, and he had confirmed it, and the first thing I did was call her. My work, shout out to Bay County Fire Rescue because they took and take good care of me. They were like, "Go home, go home." And I called her, and the first thing she said was, "What's wrong?" Because she could just tell. And I told her what happened. She goes, "I'll meet you at your house." She was in the middle of studying for a final and dropped everything. Dropped everything. And just met me at my house with a bag full of my favorite snacks and drinks and just sat there and held me. And then drove with me the next day. Um, I'm sorry, not the next day. We 2 days later drove with me down to where my dad lives to help out with everything. Without question. All I needed to say was, "I need you." And when she did that, I saw, again, it goes back to the ministry of presence. And that's when I realized, yep, I'm going to marry her.
You know, there's a thread all throughout this podcast, and I'm going to try my best not to cry. And I don't even, maybe you see it. Your wife, all this time, is a reflection of Christ.
Absolutely. I tell her that all the time.
Like a daily reminder. Because that's exactly what Christ does for us.
Yeah.
When we're like, "No, Lord, I can't do this no more." He's just so relentless.
Yeah, he doesn't quit.
Doesn't quit. And I'm like, wait a minute. This woman is just like Jesus for real.
I will
For
forever be thankful for her. Forever be thankful for her. And even through seasons of where I wasn't the best boyfriend or fiance, or in this case, husband, yeah, there are times where that native and Mexican comes out of her and she can get feisty, but at the end of the day, I know that woman loves me. The amount of times that woman has forgiven me for stuff that I don't even deserve forgiveness for is, again, like you said, it goes back to she is the living image of Christ in my life.
whew.
In the way that she showed up for me in this past season of, well, this current season I'm in. She has been my warrior in this season that I'm in right now, dealing with what I've got going on. And that woman, I can't thank the Lord enough for her.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I've out. When you talk to me about her, or when you mention her to me years ago, 2 or 3 years ago,
Yeah.
in the back of my mind, I'm like, I wonder what it was for her. And this whole conversation that we're having, it's plain.
Yeah.
I could see, definitely. Yeah, I, I was kind of like you before I found my wife. It was I would get into relationships with women, and you know this. It's like you can just tell that the vibe
Wasn't there.
just wasn't there.
Yeah.
But I'm like, nah, I can make it work. It can happen, and
It can
then
get fixed. I can fix it. I'm a man. I can fix it.
right. And it's just it wouldn't work. We would get into an argument, and then the next thing you know, that'll be the end of it. And after those situations would happen, I'm like, I'm just gonna just put a pause on love, and I'll
Yeah,
just date women. I won't get married, but because I thought that getting a little bit late with my age, and yeah, I just nah, and my past relationships, none of them worked, so
yeah,
I'm a I'm a chill.
yeah.
I'm just gonna
I'm
just
just gonna
date.
focus on me for a while.
Exact. I'm focused on me. You know what I'm saying? I'll have, some ladies that I can be able just to, kick it with from time to time, but I'm just gonna just do me. And it's so dope how we can just, in a sense, count ourselves out. But the Lord's like, no, like, this is my plan. My
Yeah,
plan
because
is, you may be feeling this way, but chill.
yeah,
I got someone for you. And so
yeah, just take it easy.
right. And so, that's how, my wife came into my life. And she came into my life when I'm like, you know what? I'm really giving up. Isn't it crazy on when we give up? Woo, when we give up doing our way of how we do things, that's when God's like, nah, okay, thank you.
Now I can work.
Now I can be exactly. Now I can be able to work.
Yeah, now that you're
And
out of my way, let me do my way.
exactly. And once I just did this, the Lord came through, and we just celebrated our first year anniversary this past weekend. So, man, I'm
That's
I'm I'm
awesome.
excited.
I remember the day.
Yeah,
I
man.
remember it. I remember that well.
Man, it's crazy. It's crazy,
I remember
And
that day.
and I still pinch myself sometimes, bro, because it's like, we've been wanting this for years. I've been wanting since I
Yeah,
was a kid. You know, I want to get married, and I want to be a father. And I feel like some days I'm not even myself. Like I feel like I'm outside of myself, seeing myself doing the things that I've been saying that I would be doing for years. It's crazy. I'm
yeah.
like, wow, like this is actually happening.
It's going down. Actually,
you know, nah, man, for sure.
it's funny you say that. I remember one night at the dorms, the fire alarms went off, and the fire department showed up, and they were in full battle rattle. They were in their turnout. They were in their bunker gear. They had air packs on and their helmets, and they had the New York hooks and everything. And they're walking through the dorms. I'm like, what is that? And I was asking them and talking with them about things. And I looked at one of them. I was like, you know what? I was like, what's that? I was like, one day I'm gonna be one of y'all. And I remember that because I was in the bottom. Do you remember? You remember the lounge area?
Yes.
But do you remember the bunk rooms that were next to it that they
Yes.
built? I was. It was because we were staying in there, and they had come down, and I opened up my little slide door to my little cubicle prison,
I remember those. Yep.
and I looked, and I was like, that's when I started talking to him. I was like, I'm gonna be one of y'all one day. He goes, go after it, kid. And I've had that epiphany so many times. It's funny you say that. It's funny you say that.
That's
And
right. And and I didn't even know about that story. I just thought that was something that you wanted to do since you were a kid.
yeah,
Because I would always see you helping out anyone that had and I'm not trying to be funny because we did have people that had this like strokes and seizures and people falling out.
yeah.
You would you would do that. So
I
I'm like,
wouldn't know.
oh,
I wouldn't know my finger from my elbow, but that time, and I'm just like, hey, I know that don't look right, so try to
bro,
fix it. And,
yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah, it's crazy how that has evolved into where I'm at now. And again, like, it's funny that you say that. It's funny, like you had that epiphany that it's actually happening. And I have that about every other shift when I'm at work, when I was at work. Just like I'm looking around and I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
I'm here.
Yeah.
That promise I made, I'm living it. And well, until July 8th. So
Uh-oh. Bro.
yeah, July 8th was a day that changed a lot in my life.
Go right into it, because that was gonna be like my last question. So yeah, go ahead.
Um,
Right into it.
July 8th, I am, as I said before, for anybody and everybody who watches this, I'm a firefighter. I'm an EMT in the state of Florida, but my department also has a surf rescue team, and um, meaning when people are drowning out in the Gulf, it's my job to show up and go get them. And I could either do it coming off of a fire engine to go get them, or there are days where I would work the actual surf rescue truck. And I've grown up on the water my whole life. I know Panama City beaches like the back of my hand. Um, we had an incident that changed. I have to be very careful how I describe things, um, for the sake of families of those involved that happened.
Ah, got you. Okay.
Um,
Okay.
and
Okay.
there's like HIPAA and stuff like this, that, and the fifth. But
Oh,
there's an
okay.
incident that happened where three people lost their lives after um, our lifeguards left the sand. Um, they had gotten in a rip going after their family members. Their family members got pulled out by bystanders and they got caught. And I was coming from a different call that we had, and I was on the engine that night. And I came off the fire engine and went to go get them, and I didn't. I couldn't get to them. So three people unfortunately lost their lives, and it was made known that we were to stay on the sand until 8 p.m. from then on, which my chief, I love my chief. I'll follow him to the gates of hell and back if he told me to. Um, but on July 8th, I was working with a buddy of mine, and we were finishing up our last patrol for the evening, and it was at dusk, and it was really getting kind of hard to see. And we were going to go from our far end of our district on the beachfront, which we patrol like I think I think it's 3 to 4 miles. It might be a little less, but 3 to 4 miles of sand.
Mm-hmm.
So we were going to go from one part to the end and then go off and then go
Mm-hmm.
home. And we're making our announcement that, hey, this is our last patrol. You guys are on your own for the night from here on out. Just y'all be safe. We were coming up to a spot where there's a notorious the rip current, which is a current that of water that shoots out from the shore, and that's what people get caught in and drown out on the beaches. And we're pulling up to it, and we see two heads out about 150 yards out, maybe a little further, maybe a little less, but they're out what all of our locals know they're past the second sandbar, which that is a no-go area. You don't go there. One, because the sharks. Two, just because it goes from here to there. It drops off. And we pulled up and we were stopping and we were looking, and all of a sudden this fella comes running up, because I was on the ATV that night. I was on the 4-wheeler, giving the 4-wheelers a little bit of running so they wouldn't gum up or anything. And my partner was in the truck, and we're stopping and we're looking. This dude comes running up and he's like, "Hey, hey, 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 hey!" And I looked at him. I was like, "Sir, how can I help you?" He goes, "There's two people caught out in a rip current, and one of them went to go save the other person, and they can't get back in." So I look at my partner and I tell him, I'm like, "Hey, go in. I'm gonna call this on the radio and get back up." He goes, and then I realize that, oh, that's the second person. He's gonna need me. And I make the call that I'm going in the water, and I'm going out and I'm diving under waves and stuff, and I get up and it's hard to see. And on this particular spot, there's a sandbar that juts out. And I dove under the wave. And what it does, it helps us get under the wave, but the backside of the wave pushes us out so we can swim faster. And I tried to do that, and the wave broke. Instead of just rolling, it broke on top of me. And it slammed me on my head and my neck onto the sandbar. And it made me scorpion. So basically, like, my body did that. And it picked me up again, and it slammed me again, and shot me out the back. And I don't know if anybody's ever experienced that, but to describe it, picture yourself being in pitch black, water rushing, but you're in a washing machine. And you're getting tossed and tumbled, and it finally spits you up. You have no way which is left, which is right, which is up or down. And I just knew something didn't feel right. I apparently started swimming the wrong way. And I found that I was going the wrong way, and I swam back to him, and we helped get him back in. And as I was, I briefly remembered this because I was coming in and I was starting to struggle. And again, the voice of the Lord was like, swim, just swim. So I started swimming, and what ended up happening was I caught a wave and I body surfed in. And I had a hard time walking back up. The only parts of why I remember this upcoming part is because people have told me. And I've talked about it quite a few times with the guys who were there. And there was an Bay County SO. Shout out to those boys in green, because they're top notch too. He looked at me, he goes, "Are you okay?" And I said, "No." And I just got to the sand, and I couldn't really walk. It was hard to do anything. They got me into the back of the truck, and I just immediately started throwing up. And they rushed me down the sand to a beach access point to meet EMS and the fire guys there. And these were my people. My people had to take care of me, like the guys that I work with. And shout out to them. They know who they are. Again, the ministry of presence, they were there. And I knew, regardless of whatever happens next, I'm going to be okay. Apparently, I threw up on one of them like 4 times. Sorry. But they ended up doing what's called a trauma alert, which that lets our trauma teams know, hey, somebody's been really hurt. Get up, get down to the trauma room. It's go time. Like the old ER show, or Trauma Life in the ER, things like that, Grey's Anatomy, stuff like that. And I don't remember really much of the ride in. I don't really remember too much of what took place in the trauma room. I remember the pain I was in, and at first they thought I might have broke my neck. Um, they thought I could have had a brain bleed. Um, one, there's been a few things since then that they've thought, but those came back fine. But the craziest part of the story is how my wife found out, because my wife works at that hospital, and she has my location, and we share locations. And she's checking it because it was getting close time for me to come home, and she sees that I stopped, and she's like, "What's going on?" Then she sees me going down the sand for sand travel, decent amount of speed. But she's like, "Oh, he got another patient. He's going to be late. He's going to be late coming home." Okay. Then she sees me get up onto the actual road. My location gets onto the actual road and then takes off. So then she's like, he's riding with his patient. He's definitely going to be late. Well, one of my close friends I happened to be one of his guys who taught him during his probationary status, calls her, and he said, "Hey Devin, it's about Zach. He's been trauma alerted. He's going to bay right now. We don't know what's going on." And that's how she found out. So my poor 9-year-old daughter found out what it was like to literally fly on the ground parallel while her mom was running, trying to get to the car. Long story short, I got diagnosed with a severe concussion, and a TBI, a traumatic brain injury. It affected for the longest time. I'm still having after effects. My speech, my movements, my depth perception. I don't know, you might have seen it, but I've probably twitched or stuttered over my words or said the same thing twice. My memory is still messed up. But I remember one thing, especially during the nights where there have been nights where I've relived it, like, and there's a voice that hits every time, that speaks every time I have these, and it says, "I am the one who calms the waters, and I am the one who pulls you out of the waves." And there's been a few times since, where we thought some stuff has developed, and where I had developed another or an actual brain bleed, and they thought I had damaged blood vessels in my neck. And every time something happens, I am the one who calms the waters. I am the one who pulls you out of the seas. And all scans have come back great. I have some after effects of post-concussion syndrome and things like that, but that's to be expected. But I had a neurologist and an actual neurosurgeon tell me, whatever God I believe in deserves all my thanks, because I should not be walking, much less be alive. And again, it just goes back to, he chases after us when we don't even realize it.
Wow. Mm.
I've been in some hairy situations before at work. I've been in some real sketchy situations. I'll just put it that way, where if God's hand hadn't been there, I should have gotten hurt. But this time, it was different, because I shouldn't be alive However, it goes back to that 2-word statement, but God.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think people really value life as much as they can or could until they get into a situation like that. It makes me want to go live it more. And it makes me want, again, like I said earlier, to be that person for those people who don't have ministry of presence in their life. And it's this whole situation has exacerbated some issues I was dealing with mentally. But again, every time something pops off or anytime something happens, I am the one who calms the waters. And I am the one who pulls you out of the seas. I'm still getting scans and stuff done, and we're getting a second opinion on some things because I'm still experiencing headaches and some speech problems and depth perception things. But I don't know. Again, like I said earlier, I don't know what to do with my hands, but I know the one who holds me in his. And I cannot wait to get back to work. I miss it.
And that's the thing that's crazy. See, anybody would be like, "Oh no, I'm done. I'm get me another job." You're like, "No, put me back in the game."
It goes back to here. I heard the voice of the Lord call, "Who shall I send? Who will go for me?" Here I am. I'm still here. I've never met a challenge that I have not wanted to face and take head on. And when I get told, I love being told I can't do something or you won't be able to do it, because it just riles something up in me. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
bet, watch. So the one thing I'm counting down to is when I get the all clear to go back to work, the literal first thing I'm going to do is I'm going out to that exact spot where I got hurt and I'm going to dive under a wave. And I'm going to pop up and I'm going to look right down at hell and say, "You tried, but God." And I'm going to get right back to work.
Yo.
And I cannot wait. I am, as we say in the South, chomping at the bit.
Yeah.
This is, have you ever felt like when you're actually walking in your calling, like it's not just like, oh, I got to go to do this, but like I get to do this.
Right.
Like, I got chose for this. This is I finally found where I belong. And it goes back to my earlier point. I never needed my name up on a sign, up on lights. I never needed to be up on stage to be fulfilled. My ministry is here in my hometown, coming off an engine or an ambulance or going out in the water and being that version of Jesus that picks them out of the water and be like, "Hey, I got you." I can't describe how the look on people's faces when we get to them and we say, hey, you're good now. I've got you. Just that look of when you see hope get restored in someone's eyes, ties it back spiritually. Kind of like, you know what? When you see someone's hope get restored in their eyes, the look of hope in their eyes at the altar, or when you're ministering to them, it energizes you. Like, let's go.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm so excited. I'm not gonna lie. I'm probably gonna send you a selfie of when I finally get back to work,
Yo.
whenever that is. But I'm definitely looking forward. I'm actually also looking forward to getting rid of this beard. I grew it as a joke, but then my wife comes up and she's like, "I like it. Keep it." Yes, ma'am.
Hey. Wow, bro.
But I can also tell you, and I want to thank you. Um, you might not realize this, but the conversation that we had in New York when I took my wife up there,
Yes,
that little
yes.
FaceTime session that we had,
Right,
the couple
right.
ones that we had,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
you didn't realize at the time the ministry of what your presence was given. So I personally want to thank you because in one of my darkest times, you were a pillar of light. And
Got you, man.
I know we've had a few missed calls and stuff, but I always know that if I text my boy C-Bar, he's going to answer eventually. It might take a day, it might take two, but I know I'll see his name pop up on my phone, and I
For
know that
sure.
he knows the same for me. So thank you for the ministry of your presence, and I hope that you realize what the ministry of presence through your podcast is doing. So
I appreciate that, man. I want to talk about that real quick, and,
yeah,
and maybe you can be able to shine some light and help me out with this because I've been having a hard time coming to grips with this being an actual ministry. Because, for so many years, and like we keep saying, we've been born, we know church, we know how to do church and
yeah,
all that. And
we know how to play it.
exactly. And so for so many years, I thought to myself, oh, well, if I'm like TD Jakes, or if I'm like Creflo Dollar, if I'm like these
Ooh,
up and coming pastors that
yeah,
have these platforms, I can be able to speak. But the Lord's really been challenging me with that. He says, well, this podcast is your platform. Like, no, I mean, maybe one day you'll get that chance to speak on a stage, but it's like his ways are higher
yeah.
than our ways. You know what I'm saying? And so when you said that, that kind of ministered to me because I'm like, here I am just having conversations with people, but I don't really know the impact that it's going to have.
We that's the beautiful thing about conversations. We never know the weight or the impact of them, and we may never know. But when we're sincere and we're genuine in our conversations, we'll find out one day. If someone hadn't had that conversation and invited Billy Graham to that tent revival he got saved at,
Yeah. Yeah.
I've seen in my job conversations take a person who was fully on the edge of committing suicide, to the point where they said, I'm willing to go with you to get help. And it's like, and I asked him why. Because you took the time to have a conversation with me. And I don't, it's hard for us to realize just the true weight of our words. We all think that we have to have some spiritual saying or like some spiritual 5-point sermon type title to speak on. It's like, no, just talk. And that's the beautiful thing about this podcast. You having genuine conversations with people, but you stay out of the way and let the ministry, let the Holy Spirit do its job.
That's it. Yes, sir.
And regardless if ever speak on a stage, you're on one. If you might, it might not be an official stage at like a Times Square church or a Brooklyn Tabernacle or this, that, and the fifth, but you're on a stage. You are in lights.
Wow.
And you are ministering, man. I can't tell you how many times listening to other people's podcasts and even hearing the snippets that you put up on TikTok, how much and how many times that's ministered to me. I mean, there's times I've even responded to your stuff that you've put up on TikTok. I'm like, boy, if that man don't stop preaching, or
For real.
say, I message you back, say yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
On some of the ladies that you've had on here and the word that they've spoken. Thank you for your faithfulness. And thank you for your dedication. And thank you for your ministry of presence.
Got you, bro. Always, man.
For
Always.
sure.
For sure, man.
As we say in Florida, for sure.
Oh, y'all still say that?
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, man. Oh, man.
For sure.
Well, bro, man, listen. This is a dream come true for me, man. I appreciate you for, putting the kids away to bed and sneaking away from your wife to have a conversation with me, man. I appreciate that, bro. For
Thank
real.
you for having me. It's been too long.
Yeah, man. For sure.
It's been too long.
Sure, man. Man, I appreciate you, and you gonna be back on again, but
I love it. Just let me know when.
for sure, bro. Listen, have a good night, and thank y'all for tuning into the Barr+Friends podcast with my guest, my friend, my brother, Zach Heckman, man. Appreciate you, man.
Be easy, brother. Be easy.
Yes, sir.